This is the Round Table, a talk show brought to you by the Glastonbury Goddess Conference. In this circle, the priestesses of the ceremonial circle, the weavers of our annual gathering, talk about pivotal topics about our community, spirituality, and goddess. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to episode 20 of the Round Table, an incredible achievement. So, round of applause for the Goddess Conference being on its 20th episode. Today our panel features 𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗜𝗡, 𝗬𝗪𝗜𝗪𝗜𝗍𝗪,
Hello.
𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗓,
Hi, everyone.
and Demi.
Hi.
All beautifully wearing pink. I'm not, as per usual, and Sadhu, I think, went for red, which is beautiful. And those are the colors of this year's Goddess Conference, which you are very well invited to join. And there are still tickets available, so please go to goddessconference.com and please join us for our annual gathering, Glastonbury, Avalon. Today's topic is a very hot topic. It's twin flames or Tinder's vibes, particularly the twin flames bit. I think it's quite hot at the moment. So it's a topic that's grounded in our contemporary age of online dating and online meeting people, which is a totally different experience, I think, for the current generations, but also for the older generations who face themselves online dating. So where does the singledom's frustration end, and where does the conscious partner research begin? How much do we resonate with the concept of soulmates, twin flames, and how do these concepts exist in the era of online dating and Tinder or Grindr? And of course, many other apps. In this episode, we will be chatting about the worldwide apparent distance between twin flames, dating, and hookups. Are they really so distant? Are they different ways to cope with the same needs? Are hookups something that we want to talk about, something that can become something sacred? Spoiler alert, it can become something sacred along the way, but and how and when is sacred, particularly linked to twin flames, and not just the Netflix documentary that we've seen, all of us, I think. How and when is the sacred used for dangerous and cult-like environments? And in reverse, how much can a Tinder hookup teach us about life, love, and relationships? So two very distant concepts, but coming together in the same topic and in the same room. So let's get it started. Demi, what do you think about this topic? Just out of the blue.
Okay, so I think for online dating and how much... I feel like with online dating, the issue that people often come into is that it's so instant gratification and there's so much choice. So it's hard for people you're judging people based on what they look like and how good they are at expressing themselves through the written word on a little screen, which on one hand is an amazing way to be able to meet loads of people that you wouldn't be able to meet otherwise, which is excellent. And I didn't find my partner through online dating, but most of my friends did, and they met the best people. It's amazing. And also, I know if I had seen my partner on online dating, he's not good at expressing himself through words. So I would have been like, who's this loser? Super hot, but no thank you. Or maybe I would have been like, super hot. I'll just keep him for the hotness. But there's the kind of throwaway overwhelm of choice, which means that we can always search for somebody better if we're not feeling super grounded in who we're looking for. And against the twin flames thing, twin flames is this idea that we are reuniting with our second part of our lost soul, the other part of ourselves. And it's based in, I'm sure someone knows more about this than me, but it's based in this idea that Plato had, that your soul is divided in two, and then at some point, if you're lucky, you get to combine together. And this, I'm not a twin flames fan at all. I shall be bashing it. It's proper hard. Sorry, everyone.
I know. Oh, don't be sorry. Yay.
But the idea behind the twin flame of meeting your soul lost part of your soul, your true other half, I really feel it's based in this idea of this patriarchal idea and this hand down from Christianity of there is only one right way, there is one right person and one right thing. And then we get the kind of new age kind of, you know that our new age spiritual, it's a little bit it can go a little bit of a narcissistic edge where folks are looking for the thing that makes them the most special, or if I do this, this is the most spiritual way to do this. It's kind of thing. It's just a human thing we all fall into sometimes. And twin flames is a way to have the best, the most special, the most sacred and most spiritual relationship possible. Whereas I would say every relationship can have that. Like, there isn't any hierarchy in sacredness, I don't believe. Every relationship can have its sacred parts and its unsacred parts. Not necessarily good parts, because not all relationships are great. And I really believe that twin flames is, in what I've seen of it online in my own community and people chasing it and in other communities, it often becomes a way to, if you choose someone as your twin flame, if you say you've met your twin flame, oh, I love them so much, this love is beyond anything I felt before, which is great, which is lovely. They must be my twin flame. It can very easily become an excuse for abuse and putting up with really terrible situations. And now I don't know an awful, I'm not a twin flame person, and this is just what I've seen on the internet. So if anyone watching has other perspectives on twin flames, come at me, I don't mind. But there is this thing I have seen in the twin flame theology where one person runs away and one person chases, and this is kind of built into the twin flame thing. One person is ready for this absolutely soul-shaking divine union and to do, I'm assuming, some kind of massive karmic healing, and the other person isn't ready, so they run away. So there's this really dysfunctional pattern of one person chasing and the other person running away. That's not sacred. That's not holy. That's just crappy relationship. And if people aren't ready to be in a relationship, you're not meant to force them. So there's a lot of the whole, this is so special, I can overlook all the little things / big things that make relationships not work. Like people not being able to show up for each other, or thinking about my own relationships and what doesn't work, not being able to see yourself when you're fucking everything up. Sorry, swears. And one thing I learned from my own relationships is that love is never enough. It's never enough just to love someone. There has to be a lot of other stuff there. There has to be a shared sense of team and wanting things to happen and being willing to commit and jump in and show up at the same level as the other person. Otherwise it doesn't work. So it's more than just a fated connection, a supposed spiritual, this is the person I'm meant to be with, is very lovely in theory. But if that person you're with, or if you, because it's not always the other person, it's sometimes it's you, usually it's me. If you or the other person is still processing old stuff, has a huge mistrust of the masculine, so can't even show up and think that their partner can be kind, for example, in my world, or just isn't ready to receive a relationship, or it's actively messing things up, doesn't matter if it's fated. The fated thing can keep you stuck in a place that isn't actually good for you. And we don't ever want to use spirituality or fate to keep us in a bad, dysfunctional situation, because then it doesn't become about true spiritual communion and connection. It's fantasy and it's spiritual bypassing. It's bypassing the reality of, we have some severe communication issues. We should either go to counseling or have a proper sit down and think about whether this is what works for us, and bypassing that by going, oh no, this is fated. We love each other. It will work out. And relationships are our most vulnerable place, and the place where we are most prone, where I am most prone to believe my own fantasies and bullshit about how things should be or can be. So I honestly think twin flames is quite dangerous. It's not a very useful
You know what?
concept.
I 100% agree with the twin flame thing that you're speaking into, Demi. I can jump in. Yeah, no.
Jump in, Katinka.
I think it's a, as you said, I think it's a new age thing that is resting on what it says actually on the tin of this, what this topic is about, on loneliness, on an inherent sense of incompleteness, of unwholeness, that there's something so missing that only somebody else can. And for me, this is the recipe for wounding attraction-based relationships that people are seeking, which may eventually lead to some sort of journey of healing and integration, but where that work has definitely not been completed and where the attraction is based on that, seeking on the outside what you haven't found within yet. And I think that this is not, this is codependency and like you're saying, a really unhealthy dynamic-based relationship, in my opinion. I think the soulmate thing is kind of similar, though for me personally, less so, because I believe that you can have many soulmates. It's not just one soulmate. You can have soulmate connections with many people, even who are not necessarily your love or life partner. So it's more open. I think the conscious relationship that we're speaking into, where there is a real hunger for this, and this is part of the whole dating online swipe left or right thing, and the hookup scene, and the real seeking for relationship, and how do you do that in such a saturated world that's so instant gratification based and so visual based, and where different hungers are playing out altogether. So the conscious relating thing comes for me from a place of integration in the self, where there is a wholeness, which for me would symbolize as saying an inner marriage of feminine and masculine, say, or really having met your places of shine and shadow, so that you don't have to project them or seek them in someone else. So then how can you possibly be interested, for me, with my opinion, doesn't have to be the truth for everybody, like Demi says, but in a twin flame, because that's like just a mess, really. Be careful what you wish for, I would say, if you're attracted to the twin flame idea. And equally so in the dating scene, I know I have friends who are setting up sort of conscious dating groups or communities or discussions or whatever, blogs, because this is very hot. And it is, I think the physical attraction thing. When I was doing some online dating myself, which was, I did never do the swipey thing. I think it slightly predates my online dating experience. I actually set out quite determinedly, which was just my own personal journey. For me, the online dating was an exploration of what do I actually choose. And I deliberately did not go for physical attraction at times, specifically to test that part of myself. Actually, I hooked up with someone who I was actually physically quite repulsed by, like really quite a strong not attraction, to challenge this in myself, I mean, there were many other places where I felt there was zones of meeting. So I was really working on this. What is it? What am I actually seeking? What am I actually inviting into that? What is my own consciousness around relationship that I want to find in someone else? And so I hear at the moment this online dating scene has a lot of really quite negative feedback that I'm hearing, that it is majorly just hooking up. But I met my partner, now husband, through an online dating site. And so I would consider myself, for this relationship, for this soulmate, I don't actually think of him as my soulmate, but it's not my first long-term, real committed life partner relationship. We met online. And so it's certainly possible, but I think there is a lot more that needs to happen than just a quick glance and a physical attraction from just the outer layers. And I think that for me is the core of conscious relating, is that it's about inner layers, and therefore you have to own your own inner layers, and therefore it cannot be twin flame. That's me.
I think with the online dating, also, you're never going to know, like, from looking at a picture, they could come across as the most perfect for you person and be delicious in every way. And then you meet them, and then there's no, like, chemistry, or there's no back and forth, or there's just something doesn't smell right. It's so, that kind of connection and spark, you can't tell on the internet whether it
No, you
is
can't.
there or not.
And someone can
Also,
be
people.
The same can be for us meeting somebody in person, of course. That's, people will present themselves in their best way.
Sure, but it's easier to read if you're not in text mode and actually with the person. You get all the other information, all the other languages. But yeah, people can present themselves as whatever. But it gets real when it gets into the real, offline into the real, I think.
Yeah, I it's interesting because I kind of confused the term twin flame with soulmate, and because I truly believe in soulmates, and it's like, when you meet somebody, and that could, as you say, that could just be somebody like I've met friends in the Netherlands that I just, from the second I saw them or I talked to them, I just kind of knew them, and there was such a familiarity, and but yeah, I think it's hanging yourself too much on that to be almost a bit desperate, like it has to be a thing, it has to be a twin flame, it has to be a soulmate for it to be real. I think that is just, I'd like people to, I like the concept of it, and it can be a very beautiful thing, but it's not can only be the thing. If you meet somebody and you really feel a deep connection with it, and you call it a twin flame or a soulmate, or that's great. But I think is if you hang your whole relationship, whether it's a beloved relationship or a friend relationship, on that one thing, on that concept, I think that's just a bit, it's not very real, not very realistic in our world, because I do believe in the soul world, and I do believe that souls can, really recognize each other. But, there's also the daily life and the daily everything that we have to deal with, which is, on a soul level, you can be very connected, but in daily life, you might have different political ideas or, all kind of things. So I think, yeah, I it's not that I throw it away at all. I think there can be this beautiful connection through soul, whether it's a soulmate or a twin flame. But I think it's a bit dangerous, like you said, Demi, to completely hang your relationship on that idea, on that romanticized spiritual, I think it's romanticized more than spiritual, idea of, our souls are meant to be together. It's like, how do we work together? How do our souls work together? How do our minds work together? How do our bodies work together? It needs to be this holistic thing. And if you just think about the soul, I think on soul level, everybody of us should get along. And, for me, that's a higher energy. But then in the practical, in life, in our reality, in our dualistic duality, completely different story.
Well, I think, Marion, what you're suggesting, though, it's really nice. And I think if we know you in a way, I think what you're suggesting is like the mate of a soul. So it's like a companionship of souls that find themselves. And let's imagine, life is this big alley with many souls walking it. And you like find the mate for your soul in this journey of a lifetime, which is, I think it's beautiful. And it also involves the prospect of a choice, finding each other and making the choice to go along together. I think that's what you're and that I think that's a beautiful concept.
Yes, and I think that's a two-way street as well. because you can, like Marion is saying, I do also believe there are soul connections that you have, but it's not quite, for me, there's a difference in the twin flame, that there's something missing and the other person is bringing that, not a fullness of meeting, which for me is what soulmate is. And what you're saying is very beautiful, beautiful image, Andrea, and I think it can work. You can make soulmate connections from the physical, or you can make that meeting of souls real in the physical from the other direction. So I think it's a beautiful crossover place there, really, of really conscious relationships and choosing to meet each other and to actually commit to each other and to allow each other to be who you are, not this kind of drive to, with some sort of pseudo spiritual gloss, to have to be something that you're actually not, you know.
Yeah, even that, I have an idea that the twin flame has been put down as something. Maybe I am a bit of a romantic, but you know, but that you kind of, you know, complement each other. I don't think there is necessarily a thing that where you know, you look for something that you are missing, but I mean, it's not like you cannot be without each other as a twin flame. So you have to stay together, because otherwise your life's not complete. I'm not sure. Maybe it has played out like that in some times, but I think if people are proper conscious, I think the whole idea of a twin flame is something beautiful you can work with, not necessarily be taken over by. So I think it's more like, for me, a twin flame, I've never had that experience or anybody who said that to me. So I don't have anybody seen, you know, go under in a twin flame idea. So, but yeah, I think it's also something really beautiful to work with. But I think it's not, as long as it's not like a total surrender, like, oh, this is my twin flame, and therefore, you know, I have to do everything that he or she says or whatever. I think it's an invitation for me, like meeting a soulmate or a twin flame.
I think the danger for me, I see in kind of that kind of twin flaminess, is that it rests on this underpinning of scarcity, that there is this one twin flame person who is your match, and if you lose it, then you have lost your twin flame. And I like soulmates. I don't really have an opinion on soulmates. I like soulmates. I don't like soulmate. And I know that within romance and modern culture, it's softening a bit now, but there is such a scarcity mentality of needing to find the one, and there isn't enough good men, and there aren't enough good ladies, and this absolute ravenous scarcity. And it's this idealization of, oh, there is this one perfect relationship, which is the top of the hierarchy of relationships that I can achieve as a person.
Yeah, I've never experienced any of that in my own life or anybody I know.
That drive for that perfection, and if you're not quite perfect enough, it's just not real. No one is perfect, and no one relationship is perfect, like exactly as you're saying.
And Demi, earlier,
𝗧𝗪𝗓?
I want to hear Sadhu.
Demi earlier paired this with, you know, with patriarchy, that you know, we have this model of the, you know, upward pointing pyramid, with there being one kind of supreme in all forms of life. And actually, in the goddess tradition, the goddess is very much many. She's very much not one. Or in my experience of the goddess tradition, and inspired by the Southern Indian Shakta Tantra traditions, that the goddess is many. And if we can open to this idea, then, which is something which I resonate much more with, is the idea of soul contracts, that we have these different soul pieces that we can or cannot engage in with our lives and people. And a big thread in this conversation is choice, because it is a choice to actually take on a soul contract. It's not an imperative. You don't meet somebody and you have to do the soul work with them. It's actually a choice. And, you know, and I think such a big part of this conversation is, how do we navigate choice? How do we, one of the distortions of kind of the twin flame ideology is, on one side of the spectrum is fixation, is that, people are totally obsessed with this person who's really not choosing them or really not available for them. And then one of the distortions in the dating world is that people have so much choice that they're completely non-committal, and they don't follow through with any choices that they make. They kind of just drop out at any second. So how do we really hold a real relationship with choice, where we make choices, see them through, and actually complete different experiences, which very much for me kind of lines up with soul contracts, that they are choices and it's a completion to do a certain piece around which there's boundaries. I've done a lot of different soul work in my life, and it's important to put boundaries around it. It's not that you're not going to take part necessarily in this soul contract or this piece of soul work with this person for the rest of your life. That is a very, very, very big commitment. So soul work needs boundaries around it. I'm willing to undertake this journey with you for the next, like in the culture tradition, we have the year and the day marriage ceremony. It's like I'm choosing to undergo this period of commitment with you, and beyond that, let's see if we choose again.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's very beautiful, this speaking into the soul contract, which of course is part of soulmates. Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily last your whole life. This whole thing of you find the one person who then also has to be the perfect person and remain the perfect person for the whole of your life, regardless how you may change and that person may change. This is this actually scarcity and ownership philosophies that are such fundamental parts of patriarchic ways of thinking and structuring a society. So, yeah. And I think that really I'm very, very grateful to not be in the dating scene at the moment, because I think it is really difficult. All this ghosting business and this, the behavior is appalling, because a lot of it is not in the real. I don't think people would be behaving like that. And perhaps expecting this perfection model. And if somebody doesn't have one of your list, people have lists. It's very good to have boundaries, but that for me is not quite the same as lists, So yeah.
A list is like trying to find the perfect person, which is the knight on the shining armor, or or whatever. But that's again not real, is it? And I think that's I don't know. I think it's like really, love is hard work, and I like that idea from the contract. It's like it gives a commitment, but it doesn't mean that you have to give everything away from yourself. So you have your boundaries. And I really like that soul contract idea. And because when I got married the first time, I was definitely in that kind of innocent idea of, this is going to last my whole life. Not from a patriarchal but just from a place of love, that there was no idea of this was not going to end. And that was when I actually did end. That was still very difficult for me. It's like, how did this happen? How, and then working with, and we worked really well in our divorce and all that. So we actually did ceremony and all that, but to close that contract, we actually did a ceremony to say, okay, this is what we have done. This is what we have created in our lives. This is what we held for each other. And this is what we're going to hold for each other in the future. But this part of the contract has ended, has done its thing. And that really helped with this idea of like this romantic, maybe childish idea of like, well, this is for life. And but it was at the moment that we actually closed the contract, it was a choice by both of us. When the whole stuff happened, it wasn't a choice for both of us. But do we work through that? So I like that idea of the soul contract.
Well, I'm picking up on what Demi said at the beginning. I think there are similarities, though. I think the current online dating scene kind of picks up on the fact that we are deeply disconnected as human beings. between one another. So there is a while you're the Tinder swipes in a way are I have full control of my narrative. I know who enters my room, who doesn't. I have full control of it. And in another way, I think the twin flames mythos in a way recreates this, because once I enter into a spiritual life and I want everything of me to be spiritual, my salt in my kitchen is Himalayan salt, and my candles are spiritual candles, and I don't burn incense in my house. I create a temple. So of course my dating should be, resonating with that, because what if I meet a plumber? It cannot be a plumber. I'm a priestess of everything. So I think it should be somebody who at the very least enters this grid of, spiritual the spiritual universe. So if it's a twin flame, there is a reason why I'm doing that. So again, I am at the center of the narrative. Well, I think that when we have those episodes where true connection happens and we find those soulmates in this very large alley which is life, I think it's more of a giving up control. Is like, I cannot control this. I can only flow in this. I can only experience and be transformed by it. But twin flames in a way brings the thing into a field where you can control the narrative, you can control the mind, the mythos. You have it clearly. It's twin flames. I mean, it was supposed to be as, it doesn't matter in a way. It doesn't matter that you're a plumber. It doesn't matter that I was, a high school teacher and I'm a priestess. What we are is twin flames in a way. So it becomes very mythological. The narrative can be very, very much controlled. And it's scary to me how that takes away the personal stories of the persons. It's like you're one half of the flame and you're just part of a mythos that we can weave together. But in reality, what really makes a union in a way, it's the very diverse stories that we bring to that relationship, and our faults and our flaws and our, it's creepy in a way, because those are two very distant things, but they are happening at the same time in history. So Tinder and twin flames, they are hugely popular.
I think what they have in common is this longing, and this was in your introduction sentence.
Yeah.
And there is a sacredness to longing. It can be horrible and sharp and empty and gnaw away at you and make you do all sorts of things that you wouldn't normally choose to do, and including creating mythos around something that's actually really perhaps not working, like you were all saying earlier. Or, this unmeetable dissatisfaction where, your lovers have to be tantric lovers and they have to be of a certain level and nobody can quite meet you. All this, that is part of the dating requirements, that I'm seeing out there. I don't mean to sound judgmental. I understand that the longing underneath is huge. It's really huge. And our longing for connection, and our longing for connection in the sacred, of the sacred in the ordinary of life, I think is really the fundamental place underneath this. And that's a tough place to walk with. I was in that zone for a long time, and sometimes within committed, beautiful, long-term love relationships, you can still feel that, because, unlike in the mythos of the twin flame, no one person can meet you fully in all areas of you all the time, and you cannot meet any one other person like that either. And so there's actually something that is beautiful in its intensity and its realness. And for me, there's actually a sacred element to that longing. Not, oh yeah, we need to suffer it, sacred, in that sort of ideology, but more that this is the longing for sacred union, actually on the human level, that we want to enact out in a relationship field. That's how I experienced it myself and how I see it,
Yeah. And I think what Demi and the Sadhu do in a very powerful way. Demi is like, what do I do? What they do is doing that. I mean, through your activities, again, empowerment through arrows for Sadhu and Rockstar Priestess for Demi. What they do is taking the mundane, what happens in your daily life. I've seen that 1,000 times in your stories, Demi. You take something that is really your daily life, and you weave magic in. There's magic in it, and you weave magic out of it. And it's not like, I'm a priestess of Avalon and this is, and this is it. This is all I'm ever gonna be. I love the way you both do this. You make the magic, the mythos, the sacred visible, even in the mundane life. That's so beautiful. And I think it's so healthy in a way. And that's the same thing Katinka was talking about. I think that's the same thing Marion was really talking about when she was talking about the soul mating process. It's something that truly happens. It doesn't happen in some metaphysical realm where it's very distant, and then you find this person you don't know, but you basically decide that's the person for you. You actually meet the person, and the real person actually weaves into your life, and it's organic, it's true.
Yeah.
And that's also what you all do as members of the Goddess Conference. I think what you do is bringing people together in Glastonbury, and then Glastonbury becomes Avalon, and then a circle becomes an experience, and then a workshop becomes a transformation, a ceremony becomes an enlightenment. But it all starts from a group of people that most of times are, chatting together, laughing together, crying together, picking up, fries from 𝗧𝗪𝗡 and pizza because it's too late to get food anywhere else. And it's how the human experience of the Goddess Conference actually creates way for the sacred to manifest. And that's very unlike, I think, both the Tinder swipes in a way, but also the Twin Flames thing. So I think there is much room at the Goddess Conference for this kind of human experience and connection. So I want to tell everyone who might be listening right now, if you don't have your tickets, please book your tickets at goddessconference.com/shop. The Goddess Conference will be running from the 29th of July until the 3rd of August. There are full week tickets available, weekend tickets, day tickets. Join us, even for a day only. We would love to have you and for you to witness this community experience, this real life becoming sacred life before your very eyes. So please do join us. I'm gonna
Andrea,
Yeah.
may I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of like a big parallel between the topic that we're speaking into and the Goddess Conference itself is there's really this invitation to surrender to an opening of your heart in some form, and this is the big invitation of love relationship. And what we see kind of in the the distortion in the distortions that show up in the dating world, and then the twin flame world is this. Where was I going to go with that? No, I've lost the thread.
Opening of the heart, surrender.
Yeah. We see, in the distortions, we see these very controlled places, like we were talking about controlling the mythos, and then controlling anyone who comes into your life and no one ever being good enough. And the real invitation of love relationship is this surrendering to the longing of the heart that longs to open. And Katinka talks about this so much in her work, in the kind of melting of our attachment to form, and how we get fixated with, it has to look like this and it has to look like this, and they have to have this job and do this, and really the melting away of that. And I see that so much as a big invitation in the conference, really in our personal relationships with ourselves, to really surrender to an opening of the heart that is ready to take place in that moment. Not the massive, biggest opening of your heart that you could ever conceive of, but with the opening in the heart where you're ready to flower and open and blossom. And that's really what the conference holds beautifully, I think, for so many people.
And I think that is, for me personally, that is really what Goddess also does. It's not even an opening to heart necessarily to another person. And I think I said in the beginning as well, it's about your own journey, your own opening of heart, and your own courage to be vulnerable, and your own courage to look at yourself and to come in relationship with yourself as well, and to find out. And I think that is, in my experience and how I've experienced Goddess, is that's really how a whole part of me opened my heart to her, and through Goddess, to myself, and then to other people. So it is a beautiful journey. I'm glad you said that, 𝗬𝗪, because that is very much what we are doing, isn't it? It's like we are working with that heart opening. We are working with love. It's just beautiful.
And my job at conference is directional priestess, so I'm mostly looking after little groups of people in the conference, and I see that every year, like people transforming and opening their hearts and healing stuff that they didn't even think they need to heal, and just connecting with each other. And it's just this huge heart-opening experience, and it's just absolutely magical. I can't wait for conference. I can't wait to be getting my talk about pizza at midnight on Thursday.
True that. And to that, I would love to thank our panel today, Marion Brigantia,
Thank you. Bye.
Katinka Sutens,
Bye, everyone.
𝗬𝗪𝗡𝗧𝗪𝗕,
Bye, everyone.
and 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗘𝗢𝗧.
Thanks for joining us, folks.
Thank you, everyone, and see you very soon, and see you at conference. Bye.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you.